Good afternoon. A warm welcome to everyone at our live webinar today. My name is Jacek. I'm a co-founder of NewonCube, and I'll have a great pleasure of hosting this event. At NewonCube, we specialize in supporting leaders from healthcare industries. We work closely with product owners, project managers, and engineers. The idea for this webinar is to share our knowledge in regards of artificial intelligence and mainly focus on the healthcare aspects. With me, we have Jakub Kwieczko, founder of Medical Innovation Institute. Hello, Jakub. Good to have you with us.
Hey, Jacek. Hey, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here, and thanks for the invitation.
Yeah. Let me give you some quick background and summary of what we are trying to achieve with this webinar. So first, we'll start with MII report regarding the AI adoption in public sector. Later, we'll move to focus on AI applications and what technology can bring us today. Following with artificial intelligence and machine learning in the cloud. Lastly, we'll finish with some AI challenges, regulations, and what future can bring us. And we'll have a short period of time for a Q&A session, so feel free to ask any questions. In case we find a question to be too broad or too specific, leave us an email and we'll surely get back to you. Jakub, so for the first round, could you tell us a little about yourself and Medical Innovation Institute, and mainly about the report that you did regarding the AI adoption in the public sector? What were the conclusions?
Sure. So I'm Jakub, obviously. I'm a doctor myself. I'm a pediatrician working in a hospital in Dziechanow-Leśne. That's a pediatric hospital. I'm the chief of auxiliary department, trying to bring some innovation into the public ecosystem with my own bare hands. That's what I'm trying to do there. But I'm also a co-founder and CEO of Medical Innovation Institute, which we established 2 years ago, which is a vehicle for innovators in the medical sector, trying to help Polish startups to scale and grow, and also trying to bring innovations from outside of Poland to Poland and implement them into the private and Polish ecosystem. And as you mentioned yourself, beginning of the year, we made a report on adoption of AI or in general technology, especially with the focus on piloting stage, because in Europe, in Poland in general as well, we all love pilots. Every startup actually is either doing a pilot or thinking about doing a pilot or will need to do a pilot, because this is actually the first thing to enter the market usually. Before we have any real implementations or real sales, people want to see if we are actually able to deliver what we've promised with our product. And this is what we were trying to focus on, taking examples of different ecosystems we went through the Estonian, Dutch, Czech, Spain, or UK ecosystem to see how they manage and how kind of what kind of pilots are they running and how. And then we also took few Polish AI examples of startups which implemented their solutions effectively into the ecosystem to try to see what were their key takeaways and what were their biggest challenges. And we broke it down to the takeaways and then divided them into the recommendations for the startup itself, for the hospital or the public sector that is open for innovation, and also for the sector in general, the decision makers. So it's broken down into the 3 parts. And yeah, I will give it back to you to go back and forth with the questions.
Okay, so what are the risks and challenges in adopting the AI in public healthcare? Mainly, what are the risks regarding the budget, maybe regarding the staffing? Is it something that's going smoothly? What do the hospitals need to take care of and look into when dealing with such drastic technology change?
Mm-hmm. So in general, having a look at how to implement this into the ecosystem is highly regulated, and that's a good thing, right? We are talking about medical solutions, medical devices, many times AI, which is having a direct or indirect impact on doctor and patients. Therefore, startups are challenging and facing many regulatory requirements together with the GDPR, of course, and MDR regulations, AI Act, NIS2, which is a cybersecurity directive came in place effectively last year. So many things taken into consideration when you even think about doing a medical startup, and many times when you think about it too late, it's too late because you need to think about this from the beginning, right? But this is also super important for the partners, for the technology takers, for the public hospitals, for the private hospitals, and all the clinics and everybody that wants to work with this one. So you need to be reliable partner, first of all, to even be able and think about having a potential partnership pilot or a client. If these days, so everybody's super aware of those regulations more and more, and if the startup is just not compliant, then they're doomed at this point of the conversation. So I think that's one of the most important thing, which is a challenge, and this is a challenge that needs to be addressed really early on. Regarding the financing, as you mentioned itself, in Poland we had a little bit of gap of financing lately, because of the different situations, because of the also global situation after COVID. Many funds were cut on the innovation, unfortunately, and we had a gap of funding when it comes to venture capitals, venture studios, as well as the public funding to some extent. This is kind of right now regaining speed and momentum. We have more and more VC funds funded by the Polish PFR. Hopefully, they're going to be able to invest in autumn already in first startups, and this is where we're looking at and trying to, and we have hope that this will again speed up the ecosystem and innovation in Poland, and also the adoption to the market after that. So I guess regarding this is the most important thing when it comes to that. And the last thing that you asked was actually a personnel. And the personnel, it's also a challenge, because that's a challenge that needs a lot of education. To be able to implement innovation, it's not only the good product that you need to bring to the hospital, but you need to convince people that will use this product and solutions that this product is reliable and safe, and it will save time probably, and help you to either make more informed decisions and increase the quality of life of patients, or it will bring a lot of revenue. When you're a decision maker and a hospital director, you also are looking for potential revenues or potential savings. And this is also what you need to address as a startup. You really need to know how to target your product to a different audience groups. Either it's HCP, healthcare professional, doctors, nurses, and staff, or it's a payer, director, hospital director, or healthcare fund, and of course the patient itself, right? Because most of the products, if it's a B2B or B2C, nevertheless, in the end or at the beginning, we have this patient that also needs to have value from the solution that you bring.
Okay, you mentioned personal, and I'm also wondering, is there sort of a cultural gap between I don't know, those guys from startup companies that create amazing software that need to be adopted, and doctors themselves? What's the take here? Do doctors worry that they might get replaced at some point? Do they want to cooperate? Is there something that the engineers and product owners can do to sort of narrow this gap and help them work with doctors more closely? Or maybe there is no such problem. What's your take on that?
No, definitely there is one. We see a lot of startups who are trying to enter the healthcare market, not knowing really the market itself, because those are people who are technology driven, comes from academia, or business oriented, and so on. And sometimes they don't even consult with a doctor, or they don't have a HCP, healthcare professional, in their squad, I would say, C-level, of advisory level, whatever, right? So they really see a problem, they create a product, but they don't consult so much with the environment that they will implement the product on with the hospital and decision makers. And that's create a big problem, because that makes the misunderstanding between them and potentially the healthcare professionals who will be using the product at the end. So this is also one of the recommendations that we had in our report. You need to start working with the doctors and potentially also patients groups as soon as possible. If this product is facing doctors, is facing patients, you really need to have their take. So you cannot test the solution when it's already done. You really need to test it at the early level and early stage, even if you have a mock-up and the presentation. This is already a point where you need to show this idea of yours, the mock-up, to the startups, to the doctors, to the patients, and try to feel and understand what are their expectations, what they think about this, and if you are really bringing value and you are really trying to solve some kind of a problem which is existing. Because if you as an innovator see a problem, it doesn't mean that this is a real problem that the doctors or patients feel or have at the end of the other side. So definitely. But when it comes to bringing this gap, this is educational problem, or this is a situation where, you know, we are working as well. We are used to working in a silos. So technology is working here, doctors are working on the side, and the business is working on the side as well. In the more culturally experienced innovators community like US, Israel, Estonia, or Netherlands, many times we see initiatives where they try to cross-section those people really early on. So they try medical students to deal and work with Polytechnica technical students and business students, at the really early level, to try to understand each other. And this is fortunately trying to happen as well in Poland. We have some foundations which are trying to do that, and it's a good sign. So more and more initiatives going into this direction, but again, it needs time for this to blend, and mix nicely.
Is there any difference in adoption in private sector compared to public sector? Like common sense tells me that public sector is a little bit more difficult due to limited funding and stuff like that. But does it mean that the private sector more quickly adopts those technologies? Did you focus on private sector as well? Or what's your take on that?
Of course, this is a kind of a maybe not the easy answer, but in general, I would say, of course, yes. When you have one decision maker, and this decision maker is spending her own money, for example, and running their own businesses, and they see innovation as something that can help them to generate more revenue or growth, they will just take this money out of the pocket, of course, after some analysis, what kind of a impact this solution will bring, and they're ready to invest, to see and check if this will work. But when it comes to public sector, everything is dependent on the tenders. You cannot just come as a startup to a hospital or public clinics and just say, let's just implement this innovation. You really, if it's something that the hospital we need to pay for, and this is a product, so they will need to pay for that, it usually needs to go on the tender. And tenders are highly regulated. They have their own rules. When you have a tender, you need to have competitors and so on. And sometimes when the product is super innovative, it's even hard to to have other competitors at that stage. Plus, definitely, public sector is not so keen and ready to buy subscription-based solution. So it's easier for a public sector to buy something and use it for 1 year, for 2 years, than to pay monthly subscription, and the subscription will vary dependent on the use. So 1 month we will pay €1,000, and the next month we will pay €5,000 because the demand was higher. That's a big problem for public sector as well. And I don't see Jacek anymore.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry for the technical difficulties. It seems streaming is not that easy as they say. But moving on to the applications.
I can hear you, but I cannot see you. I'm just adding that. So I don't know if this is also for the viewers, because I can hear you, but I'm not seeing you at this point. Only an icon. Normal thing when you talk about innovation, the technical issues occur. That's how it is. I can hear you.
Okay, let's wait for the camera a second, but we can start on the applications, I think. So Moving on to the application stuff, which is something that most people are interested in. I imagine myself being a patient nowadays, and there is vast variety of tools that use either machine learning or AI that help doctors in my general well-being. So we have tools like generative artificial intelligence analyzing patient history, sort of summarizing and streamlining all the data. We have tools like image recognition used mostly by teleradiology, so X-ray, analyzing X-ray, CT scans, and MRIs. We have more sophisticated algorithms specializing in detecting, cardiac arrests or analyzing ECG. I wanted to ask a very broad question. What is the thing that you anticipate the most, that sort of drives you the most, and you think will make a general impact for everyone? Because, like I said, there are many tools, many technologies, but we cannot adopt everything, and not at that scale. So what's something that you think is the most crucial aspect right now in terms of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so I can as well answer this question based on what I'm trying to implement myself in my hospital right now at this point. So those are, because we could break it down to something which is already present, which is kind of easy to adopt at this point, basically. We can focus a little bit on more things that are coming in the future and things that will be possible in some years, right? So for now, for example, things which will help doctors to gain more time to deal with emotions with the patients, to be there for the patient, such as a real simple tools of voice to text. This is really like, for me, a standard of care that we should see coming really soon, right? So this is also gaining more and more adoption. Me as a doctor, I'm spending much time on documentation of patients. I need to talk with the patient and at the same time write down whatever the patient is saying, right? Because I need to put this in the computer and it needs to be precise. So, a tool which helps to generate the note based on the discussion that I'm having with the patients without me needing to, put all this information in the system, that's already a game changer. I'm having a possibility to look into the patient's eyes again and try to focus on the emotions and, try to focus on the symptoms while I'm talking to them, not on the monitor. Simple thing, but happening right now. And things that you mentioned yourself, AI tools, which are being more and more used when it comes to radiology, computer tomography, radiology, X-rays, MRI. This is actually happening. And for both, from one side, it helps radiologists to give faster descriptions of those images that they're analyzing. But on the other hand, it gives me more and faster information as a doctor as well. Right now, for example, we are trying to adopt AI, which is helping with the fractures. So when we do a picture of the X-ray scan of the bone, we will get the immediate answer if there is a fracture or not. If there is a fracture, then the surgeon needs to take a look at it, to make a decision. But if there is no fracture, maybe this is something that the pediatrician even can do, and pediatrician myself, right? So that could be easier for me to make a decision and to make this, situation more comfortable and faster for the patient. But looking ahead of the future, definitely what you mentioned yourself. So Gen AI tools, which will help to me more informed decisions. So they will analyze the documentation of the patient, the previous one, the current one, and it will help me as well to make more informed and a better decision and even more personalized decision based on the history of the patient. So I won't treat this patient as one out of the 100 patients that I've seen and I'm treating everybody the same, because I will know his history. And I will have hints from the system saying, look, this patient, for example, is not reacting so good on the drug ABC. Or maybe he is reacting on the drug, but based on his previous history, we know that he needs to take 10, 15, 20% bigger dose because the dose that he had previously was not effective. So you need to take this into consideration. That information that I'm not able to get right now at this point. So definitely this is something what I'm trying to look for in the solutions in the future. And even more further on, I'm thinking that we are trying and we are switching from disease-centered solutions into the more patient prophylactic-centered solutions. So we are trying to be with the patients on the stage where the patient haven't even gone to see the doctor throughout his consultation process, and then to be able to communicate with this patient actively, or some sort of having communication after the discharge to make sure that he's going to recover faster, and he won't need, or she won't need, to come back to the doctor for another visit, right? It's uncomfortable for the patient, and it generates more costs as well for the healthcare ecosystem.
Okay, but and what about because those tools help patients and doctors indeed, either by summarizing or classifying data, or acting as an assistant, or doing some predictive analysis or image classifications, as it is in teleradiology. But what about the businesses? So hospitals and clinics are, apart from helping patients, also businesses. Do we have tools like, I don't know, for instance, bed capacity management or resource planning that use AI that can help not only doctors but management as well?
I mean, yes, we do. Maybe not in Poland at that point. I mean, in Poland, we also have them. They are coming more and more into the implementation. They are not heavily used in general when it comes to AI adoption. When it comes to the publications we had with the Center of eHealth this year, it comes out that only 4.7% of the clinics that were tested, and they tested thousands of clinics, and the hospitals, only 4.7% of these clinics use AI to some extent, at least to their awareness, which is not a lot, right? Now, the situation is better when it comes to hospital. It's around 13% of the hospitals using, AI, but mostly this is AI used in radiology, we have to be honest. But the situation is changing. Like each year we can see more that this adoption is increasing more or less by 50%. Last year it was around 2% something. Right now it's 4.7. So that means it doubled. So the next year we can expect that it might be 10% in general. Next year it's going to be 20%, and so on and so on. So we can expect that in 5 years we're going to reach at least 50, 60, 70% adoption of the AI tools. And this is the capacity where different tools and solutions, also this administrative task solutions which you just mentioned, will be able to also help hospitals and hospital managers to make better, more informed decisions. So this is definitely what I'm working in the hospital right now, to make data lake of the data coming from a different points of information from the hospital, to make BI algorithms and analytics, which will help to make informed decisions, to streamline the processes, to make lean management work in hospitals, and then for the hospital in general, as you mentioned, to actually earn money. In theory, hospital is a public hospital, and some people are saying this is a public hospital. They don't need to make money. They just need to save lives and help. I agree and I disagree. From one side, definitely, this is the main purpose of the hospital, to save lives. On the other hand, we have examples, and good examples also from Poland, that even in the public healthcare system, if the hospital is managed in a correct way and in the right way, the hospital can make revenue. And there's nothing bad in making revenue.
That's true. And you mentioned things like processes, streamlining, pipelines, business intelligence. So those words are often they're often used in next to the words such as cloud computing. So I wanted to ask you, because those technologies indeed are sexy nowadays, are being adopted, are talked about, but they use many resources, require lots of staff power, engineering-wise, product-wise. So, and mostly they rely on cloud computing. And when we were delivering Radpoint projects or teleradiology, we faced many challenges in terms of adopting cloud into general workflow of the hospital. They were concerned about data security. They were concerned about data privacy. They were concerned that they lose control and give control of the service to another third party. Did that shift in the last years, or is it still a gap that needs to be narrowed, or perhaps there are any, solutions like, I don't know, hybrid one that leverage both the power of on-premises and cloud as well? What are the optics for on the hospital side here?
So, like usually with the innovation, in many regards, we have a problem with adoption, which is also connected with regulations, regulatory services, right? So, when it comes to cloud, we have opinions, legal opinions, some that is saying that it's not something that can be used right now at this stage of development of the healthcare ecosystem, and we have different lawyers saying like this is completely normal, this is okay, we should use it. They are embracing it as well. The same with the e-signature. So in the hospitals, we have problems also even with the simple things like e-signature. Some hospitals are using this and they're having legal departments saying completely legal, completely normal, that's fine, according to the law. And we have different hospitals which are saying this is not according to the law. This is, there are some gaps in the legal gaps, which might be dangerous to the hospital. This well with the cloud, this is what we are moving right now. This is not 100% regulated area, which makes some hospitals kind of this is not a risk to use it, but they are more innovative, more pushing to the cloud. And some hospitals are just afraid because they don't, have the legal structure, which is listed in a way that they feel completely secured or
Okay.
or safe, depending on the things you just mentioned.
Okay, that's quite a paradox here, because the things that not only hospitals but often the businesses worry are actually very well solved by the cloud services. And what I mean by that is that security. The clouds operate on the shared responsibility model, basically allowing you to create roles and assign certain permissions to any operation or process. And they do that well. And in terms of regulations, right now it's also getting easier and easier because all of the services are auditable. What I mean by that is that they can allow you to inspect either data artifacts or the state of the application in, I don't know, second by second, which will sort of serve legal third parties in terms of audit or something like that. And nowadays there are many features added to clouds like AWS, for instance, Amazon Health Lake, Amazon Comprehend Medical, which are first HIPAA compliant. So that's a win. Second, they allow you to get access to very good quality of medical data, and they know how to structure the data and how to query the data. So to make a long story short, the technology is there, and I think the gap to narrow is more of a cultural one. Often people also worry about costs, but as it comes to as it goes with all of the services, it comes down to the experience. They indeed can cost a lot of money, but you can optimize them. You can optimize their life cycles. So I think what I'm trying to say is that I hope that at least in our Polish playground, the business will get there and will sort of re-embrace the cloud computation power, because in delivering those services at scale is, in my opinion, impossible without the use of cloud. I mean, technically it is, but nowadays, if you face the problems of maintaining infrastructure, maintaining servers, maintaining staff and support, then you simply either don't choose that solution because it's too much, basically, for a hospital or clinic, or try to outsource. But like you mentioned at the very beginning, the idea is to bridge a gap between a startup and the medical staff in terms of culture, in terms of the approach to the to the general features that we are trying to accomplish. But I think it goes the other way around. So the gap has to be narrowed in terms of the technology as well. And cloud here is a technology. So I have another question, because we mentioned privacy and regulations. So how do I, as a patient, should I, as a patient, worry about my data being used by various algorithms? Is it used by algorithms or to power AI models? And second, can I do something to make sure that my data is secure?
So at this point in Poland, with such a low AI adoption, I guess you don't have anything to worry about, right? Because as we mentioned, first of all, low adoption of AI, and the second of all, mostly on-premise solutions. So in this situation, in theory, you don't have to worry, especially in a situation where your data is not usually to any extent used for algorithm training. If it's used, if it's more or less used just to make a decision, like with the AI in radiology. But it should be a situation, we should go into the situation where you can give informed consent, for example, for your data, anonymized data, to be used to our research. Definitely that would boost, the innovation ecosystem in Poland and in Europe in general. And I guess this is where the European health data space is heading to. It's heading to a direction where your data could be secured and stored in cloud with your consent to be used anonymously to make research, to make more AI algorithms, to make more innovation. And this is not something I think we should be afraid of. Of course, definitely, our data is super important. It's super. It's super.
Yes, it's vital
valuable.
valuable from the algorithm perspective. And yes, like you said, nowadays we have tools not only offered by cloud providers, but that are of general availability that allow you to sort of anonymize the patient data. So we don't know who we are dealing with, but we know what we are dealing with. So I mean, from the clinical perspective, I have access to the patient's sickness history, if he, of course, if he allows, give me consent, and this data is later anonymized and powers either machine learning models or generative artificial intelligence. Okay. Moving on, what about the so often mentioned regulations? We have GDPR, we have HIPAA, AI Act. Is it something, because I feel like this technology is maybe on the paper it's quite old, but in terms of general adoption, it's quite young. We lots of people only heard about artificial intelligence like 4 years ago, where when ChatGPT made his debut. But like you said, regulations are important. Is it something that we as patients can feel like this is properly regulated, or is it still being talked about or I don't know, discussed?
So that's a big discussion we're having all the time around, the regulations in USA, Europe, and China, right? For example, to take this into consideration, in the forefront of the run for AI, I would say China is the first one right now to get with, they are changing with the US. Some are saying that US is still the champion in AI adoption and, and creation, but more and more voices are saying actually China is there. But their legal and law is different than in Europe. In Europe, we try to regulate everything and sometimes, unfortunately, when you regulate, you can over-regulate. So that's definitely a big hurdle that we are facing here. On the other hand, we are saying that's okay, because thanks to that, your data is safe, you are safe, it's not going to get anywhere out, and so on. But definitely because of that, the adoption of the algorithms and creation of the algorithms is just harder. I see startups which are struggling in Europe because of you mentioned GDPR and HIPAA, that's worldwide as well, or HIPAA, right, and GDPR in Poland. But we have AI Act We have European Health Data Space coming. We have the NIS2 mentioned regulation, that's a cybersecurity regulation. And on top of that all, we have MDR, medical device regulatory, which is also part of the AI algorithms. So, MDR is really tough, really hard to comply with when it comes to creation of algorithms. And for the startups, it's really an obstacle. It's really a hard thing, to adopt. So in my opinion, we need to regulate, but we cannot over-regulate. Over-regulation is also something which can, which can kill actually innovation.
Okay. For my last question, it'll be a two-part question. Is like general concept of AI from doctor's perspective. First thing is AI often plays a role of a black box. What I mean by that, it's hard to explain sometimes the reasoning that the model undertook in order to present you the result. Would it be beneficial from doctor perspective to get like self-explanatory AI that models nowadays can give you the process of thinking before coming up to the decision? Will that be something of a benefit to doctors? And to follow up with not so serious questions, do doctors have to worry about being replaced by artificial intelligence? Maybe not in the future, like in 2 or 3 years, but I don't know, in 10 years? Or is it something seen rather as an assistant or a tool for a doctor?
Yeah, so that's of course a valid question, but when it comes to the I guess I focus a little bit on this one. So I already started to smile when you asked about the second question, and I missed the first part. Sorry for that. Can you again
Okay.
say the first part was about?
First part was from a doctor's perspective. Would it be beneficial to have an AI model that gives you the reasoning that he undertook before coming up with a conclusion? So, for instance, when it comes to patient history, I can summarize the history well and come up with some conclusions that may benefit you as a doctor. But would you wonder, as you being a doctor yourself, how I came up with those conclusions, why I don't know, emphasize those points and not the others? So would it be some benefit for you to get that reasoning? So that was the first part.
Yeah, so I would say I don't need to know the reasoning, because I don't need to know how the ultrasound works on a technical part to be able to use it and to look at the images and reason based on the images. I don't need to know how the ultrasound waves are, penetrating the body, or a CT scan or something like that, right? But I know that it's safe for patient and it's validated and so on and so on. The same with the AI. So if I would love to know that the AI knows what it's doing. So if it's giving me some hints or answers, I would love to know, or I need to know at this stage, that this reasoning came because this and that and that, and it's based on publications, evidence-based medicine, and not a blog of some anti-vaccination person or something like this. Because like when it comes to LLMs, large language models, it's not only based on things that you want them to be based on, it's based on the whole internet, and internet is full of crap. We all know that. So as a doctor, I need to know that the AI that I'm using is really only using the reasoning, the proper medical reasoning, which is validated, and there is a evidence-based medicine behind this one. And as long as I know that it's safe and it's using those guidelines, I would say, for me that's okay. I mean, if there is a problem, so if there's going to be a situation where there's going to be a lawsuit, I would say, because it happens even without AI, I need to know that in the process of recovering the data and the analysis, that we will go back and I will know that the decision was based on the most recent guidelines available, and that this data was safe for me, and the reasoning was safe for me as well. And that's like, for me, that's enough. I don't have enough time for the patient myself, not mentioning that I will go back into the AI reasoning and I will try to see if it reason it in a good way. that's okay. I just need to know it's safe. So I would say so that's the answer for the first part.
Okay. And do you yourself, you worry about being replaced by an artificial intelligence at some point? Because everyone right now is, well, maybe not everyone, but lots of lots of sectors are sort of vulnerable and fear that AI adoption may literally result in them losing a job or sort of, I don't know, struggling in that area. Do you yourself worry, or do you see AI as an opportunity?
Definitely, I'm not like the regular representative for the healthcare ecosystem, I would say, of the regular doctor, as I used to work, in pharma companies, startups, NGOs, etc., etc. So I'm kind of even though I'm still a doctor and working as a doctor, and I consider myself like, this is my basic thing, that I'm a doctor, but I also consider myself as an innovator, and I was embracing AI already before the ChatGPT landed. I went to the first AI postgraduate course in Akademia Lona Koźmińska, where we were talking about the AI when people didn't even hear about chat back then. And I knew that this is the next big thing, that this is coming. This is something that will be a part of our lives. And I don't really remember the statistics, but this situation, what you're saying, that people will lose jobs because of AI and so on, we already discussed this 5 or 6 years ago. And I don't remember the exact statistics right now, but there was a statistic saying that AI will take millions of jobs, but it will create 50% even more. So let's name it 10 million people will lose jobs, but 12 million people will gain jobs because they will have different opportunities. There will be new jobs, there will be different jobs, jobs that we don't even think of right now. It's going to change. Definitely, it's going to change the world. It's going to change the way we live. But so I'm not afraid that it's going to take my job or somebody else's job, but I'm open to the situation where I know I will need to change and adjust kind of a way I approach my specialty or life in general because of the AI. And I'm fine with that because we live in a VUCA world, which is, changing fast and changing a lot. Like back in the days, the technology, took more years to be implemented, developed, and then to change. Right now, this technology changes are being faster and faster. So we as a people, from the like millennial, Gen Z, and everybody else, we need to just know that we will need to adjust. And sometimes we will need to change our job to some extent in life, a couple of even times, like to do kind of a life pivot. And I'm not talking a pivot in life being a doctor and then becoming a plumber and then becoming a DJ, for example, not a pivot like that, but like becoming a doctor and, changing the approach as a doctor, embracing the new technology to the extent that my position will change, and then make another maybe pivot in the next 10 or 15 years to be up to date with everything that is around me that is happening right now. So I'm not afraid that AI will take my job, but I know that I need to embrace AI in my job to be efficient and to grow. And I know that I need to be open to a change, to some sort of change, to my approach to work and life.
I think that's a wise statement. Thank you, Jakub, for this session today. I see that we have no questions, so thank you all for joining us. I would like to invite you for our next webinar, which is held on Tuesday. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jakub, and have a good day. Thank you.
Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye. Take care.